I just finished a coaching session with a group of coaches. It was sort of a group coaching session from the group called Collective Coaching. It's free. You can join the link below. It's a group where coaches practice coaching on other coaches, because the only way to really learn how to coach is to coach. And I facilitate that group, and we come together every other week and we coach each other. And one of the things that I realized because of this group is that some coaches are afraid to take their clients deep into certain things, and this is because there's a question that most coaches have that I encountered as well this week when I was in a 5-day masterclass to become a certified breathwork coach. And the question goes as follows: what if I can't help someone? There was this a few people actually that I met during this retreat who were all struggling with this question of who am I? Who am I to do that? Let's say I want to become a breath coach and I want to help people to breathe better and I want to help them to live a better life. Who am I to do that? Let's say I want to coach a CEO on how to do his job better. I can't do that because I'm not a CEO. This guy owns a ton of companies. I don't. So how can I help that person if he wants to improve the ways that he goes about his own companies? And it's such an interesting question because, yeah, how do we do that? And there's an example that I usually bring up when coaches come to me and ask me, like, how do you do with that? Because they usually start about my age, right? I'm 22 years old at the moment of recording this. And it's interesting because all of the clients I coach, and currently, yes, all of the clients I coach are older than I am. And so basically that says that they have more life experience, right? So how do I coach someone with more life experience? And there's this story where I coached a dad once on how to be better at being a dad. And and I'm not a dad myself. So how is that possible? And the reason that worked was because he said, hey, I have the feeling that I have the feeling that my daughter doesn't really understand what I do. Like she doesn't really understand what I do. I feel she feels like she wants to spend more time with me, but the bills need to get paid and I need to work and do important stuff. And so I just can't. And and he felt upset about that. He felt like he had to be there more for his daughter. I have to sneeze. Sorry. And so I asked him, like, hey, did you tell her? And he was like, no, because I don't think she would understand. And so I asked, are you sure? And he was silent for a moment. And he was like, well, no, I'm not sure actually. And he was like, I'm gonna tell her. I'm gonna include her more in what I do. And he had this huge epiphany. And I'd only said like a few words. And he felt really excited to improve this relationship with his daughter and include her way more in the things that he does. I was like, that's so interesting. I didn't do anything. I coached him, that's for sure, but I didn't give him any advice. I didn't include any of my life experience. I don't have a daughter, so I don't know. I simply was curious, and I felt like there was nothing to fix. I came from the perspective of he already knows best what to do, and that's something that really helped me to deal with that question of who am I? Who am I to coach people? I'm only a 22-year-old dude. Who am I to do this work and to tell people what to do? To help them improve their life. Who am I to do that? And yeah, I think that's a very interesting thing, and I want to dive deeper into that in this short masterclass video. Where let's just get straight into it, and I'm just going to speak off the top of my head. One of the first things that I had to learn in my coaching is that we don't need to coach people. As coaches, when you're sitting in a coaching setting, you're under no obligation to fix someone or to coach them. You don't need to do that. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Whenever coaches, especially new coaches, get into the seat of a coach, they're like, right now, I am a coach and I am here to help you. And if I can't help you, I fail at my job. And that's the pressure that they put on themselves. And so one of the first things I tell them is to take that pressure off. As a coach, you're under no obligation to help someone. You're under no obligation to help someone. All that we're here to do is to sit with people. And sometimes it's just okay to sit with people in the dark. And yes, sometimes I get to help people. But whenever I enter a coaching session, I don't plan on helping them. I don't have like an agenda, because I don't know if I can help these people. I don't need to coach them. All I am curious about is to have a good conversation. And so I literally tell this to my clients, like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen during this session. I know that we're going to have a conversation, and maybe at the end, it turned out to be a great conversation. And if you feel like it wasn't a coaching conversation, if you didn't get anything out of it, you can get your money back. And maybe there's something that I'm going to say that's going to spark something within you, and that will change the course of this conversation. And that's super beneficial for you, and that's awesome. And that's what I'm here for. And it always turns into something beautiful. And it's awesome. And it really helps for me, especially, to take off the pressure. There's no need for me to coach. And I created a pretty good video about this earlier this year, and I'll link that up there so you can take a look at that. Now, there was this other thing that I wanted to get into that had to do with this slightly, and I wrote it down. Yes. So because most coaches assume that they need to have the answers to the problems that the clients come to them with, which is already an interesting belief by itself, right? As coaches, we put ourselves in a position where we're like, okay, what my job is going to be is I'm going to solve problems that I know nothing about from people that I know nothing about in a way that I know nothing about. That's going to be my job. See how shaky that is already. Like, that is not your job. That's not what coaching does. It's definitely not what coaching does. And so we put this pressure on ourselves, and we think that we need to come up with solutions, and we think that we need to come up with things to do. And for coaches who've been into a self-development field and have done a lot of work on themselves, the pitfall is even bigger, because they don't have the insecurity that they can't help someone, because they've read all the books, they've done all the work. So they really feel like, I know how to help this person. These are the people that were in this position once. Like, I don't know if I could help people. And then they read like 20 books, which gave them more confidence in what they were doing. And then they started to teach people, which is not what coaching is. It's teaching. And so now, whenever people came with a problem, they're like, oh, I've been there myself. I've read this book about that, or I've heard this other person talk about that. You should do this. You should start a journal. You should do ice baths. You should do breath work. And that's cool. And it's nice. But what I've realized is most people aren't helped by that. See, especially the people I work with, they're the people that they know the answers to their problems. They know the solutions. They're well aware of those. However, there's something that's holding them back from this. And I'll give you an example, because this is what happened during a conversation I had during that retreat that I went to, where somebody said, hey, I'm going to be coaching CEOs, and I'm afraid that I'm afraid to coach them because I don't know how, because I'm not a CEO. And so there were two other people who were listening to this, and they were like, oh, I get that. You don't have to be afraid of that. You're going to do fine. You know stuff that they don't know, so you're going to be good. And the guy was sitting there, was like, yeah, thank you. But I could feel that he wasn't helped by that, because he knows. And that's not the thing. He didn't need more information. What he needed in that time was to explore. He needed to get to the root cause of this fear, because it wasn't a lack of information that was holding him back. It's a lack of courage that was holding him back. And that's what the problem is for most people, or that's where the opportunity lies for most people, is they don't need information from you. As a coach, you're not an information provider. You're not the one who's going to create their daily planner. You're not the one who's going to create their goals, because they're perfectly capable of doing that themselves. What they need is for someone to have their back, for someone to remind them of their own greatness. And best if they can do that by simply putting a mirror in front of them, an unbiased opinion of them, a reflection of who they truly are. That's what most people need. And so I was observing this interesting situation happening, and so I asked this man questions like, hey, so I'm hearing that you sound like you're afraid to do that, and I completely get that, because I've been there once too, where you feel like you have to solve these situations for people. And I'm curious, what's the fear that's under there? Like, I see that you're afraid to coach these CEOs, but what are you afraid of exactly? What are you afraid will happen if you stand in front of these CEOs and you're unable to help them because you don't know? And then he got into this. He started to explore more of his fears, where stuff came up, where he felt like he wasn't good enough. He would feel embarrassment, these types of things. And those are very interesting, because those we can actually work with. And then the same thing happened again, where the other two people who were listening, they were like, oh, when you feel embarrassed, this is what you have to do. Like, this is what I did, happened to me, and I fixed it like this. And you could see the guy being like, yeah, like, thank you. I genuinely appreciate that tip. But I could feel that he couldn't do anything with that, because he couldn't make it practical yet. He wasn't there yet. We weren't at the root cause of the problem yet. And so this is where the opportunity lies for most coaches to step into becoming extraordinary coaches. It is to be daring to go levels deeper with your client. And let me share with you the reason as to why people, especially most coaches, want to tap into the solution mindset as soon as possible. It is because they're afraid that there might come a moment during the session where they'll have to admit to their client that they also don't know. This is, I believe, one of the biggest fears of coaches out there. Sitting in a session, hearing your client struggle with whatever it is they're struggling with, and not knowing how to help them. It's a genuine fear that most coaches have, and I love this. I love this because it's a fear that I don't feel anymore. I'm not afraid of this happening anymore because it happened to me so many times. And I can tell you right now what to do, and I'll go into it a little bit deeper. But basically, all that is required from you as a coach is to take someone to the complete root cause of their problem. And if you then, as a coach, get lost and also don't know and truly see that your client is probably in a very fucked up situation, you get to sit there being like, hey, I also don't know what to do. Man, you're lost. Me too. Me too. And now that we know that we're there, what are we going to get? What are we going to do to get out of this? What steps are we going to take? And those are the beautiful questions, because it's not about, I'm seeing this vision of I'm seeing this vision of like a hole in the ground, and there's someone who's in that hole, and then you have the coach who would stand by the edge of the hole screaming downstairs like, hey, you know what you have to do? You see that little edge there, put your hand there, and then put your left hand on that edge, and put your feet over there. Oh, it doesn't work, try putting your feet, that type of energy. And the coach that I like to be is the coach that jumps into the hole with them, being like, oh dude, yeah, I see that. This is, I don't know how we're going to get out of this either. Like, no, but you know what we can do? What if we tried that stone? What if we tried to put our hands there? Doesn't work? All right, let's try over there. Oh, that does work. That's interesting. Let's see where we can go over there. Maybe if you try to put your hand there, maybe we can take it from there. And that's the coaching energy that I'd like to embody. It's the going to the complete bottom of things. And most coaches are afraid to go there because what if their client reaches that point and they won't be able to help them out anymore? And that's actually the best point to be at, because that's the moment that you get to realize, wow, I see what my clients see. I see how lost they are. I see that. And I see how easy it would be to lose faith in yourself if you're in a situation like that. However, my job as a coach is to see the power, the immense power in the person right in front of me, and to remind them of that. Where it's like, hey, I can see that you're lost, but I can also see that from this place, you know perfectly well what the best move is. So you tell me, what is the way that you're going to get out of this situation right now? And those are those types of questions that people might answer with an I don't know.
But the moment where you step into that hole with them and you look them into the eye and you're like, yeah, I don't know either. So what? So now what? Those are the moments where true inspiration goes flying, because you level yourself with the client. Imagine a person really stepping into the level that you're at, a level of, I got no fucking clue. And you're surrounded by people who tell you what to do. And all of these things, they don't work. They don't work for you, else you would have done them already, right? And so it's so powerful to then have someone who's on eye level with you, and who also tells you, I also don't know. I see you. I see how difficult this is for you. And I also know that you'll be able to get yourself out of here. It allows for you to not know. Suddenly the client really feels like, right, the situation I am in is fucked up. Someone sees me in my vulnerability. They see me in my struggle. And from that place, they get to act in the most beautiful way. They get to act in a way of flow, because suddenly they're allowing themselves to be themselves. And what most coaches do is they force their clients to be better than what they actually are. And this is not just the coach's fault. This is also this is the client's fault too, right? I have had coaching sessions where a coach told me like, hey, have you, what you should do? You should try this. And because I just wanted to be polite and give them a good feeling, I would be like, you know what? Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to try that. And I would hang up and I would be like, I know that that's not going to work for me. Like, that's not the coach for me, whatever. And I knew that. And out of people pleasing, I just told them like, yeah. And they get a good feeling and they go into the world thinking that as a coach, they just need to give people books to read and give people methods to try. When it's not about the methods, it's about everything that's underneath there. And yeah, I just wrote this down and I wanted to record this video about this, like how coaches are afraid to go deep, because what if they don't know the answer? What if you go so deep with a client that you don't know what to do anymore? And in my opinion, that's actually the point where you have to take your client to, because that's the point where they're at. Else they wouldn't need a coach, right? Else they could fix it themselves. And it's just beautiful what happens when you enter coaching sessions from the mindset of, I don't need to fix you. You don't need help. You're perfect as you are. There's nothing I can do to help you here in terms of add on to your experience. Like, there's nothing you need from me to be saved, because you don't need to be saved. There's nothing that you need from me to improve upon life, whatever. All you might need is a mirror. And it could be me, it could be your mother that could give you that, right? But right now it's me. And the second thing is, I don't need to give you any other information. You're complete already. And I'm just going to take you deep into yourself so that I can understand you and follow my curiosity as a coach and see where that brings us. And maybe that brings us to a point where even I go like, oh yeah, yeah, I don't know. You tell me. And they're like, well, I don't know. You tell me. And then you sit there and then you laugh about it. And then you're like, no, but seriously, you tell me. And then they do, right? Because people know perfectly well what to do. It's funny, you should try this out, actually. It's a very, very funny question. When people tell you, I don't know, and then you ask them, well, what if you, let's imagine that you did know. Then what would you say? What would you answer to this question if you did know the answer? And then people just give you an answer. It's so funny how this works. And it's how the mind works, right? Sometimes we're also too afraid to know, or we say, I don't know, because it's safer than saying the wrong answer. When there is no wrong answer. And sometimes we just need people to like spit out their knowledge. So this is really one of those principles in coaching that I think is immensely important. It is not about fixing your client. They don't need to be fixed. They don't need to be taught. They don't need to understand more. They don't need more knowledge. All they need is to remember who they are. And maybe they need more courage, but they don't need more knowledge. If that was helpful, let me know. I'd love to hear if that was helpful, if you could do something with that. If you feel like joining this collective coaching group and spending more time with me and other great coaches every other week, then click the link in the description. You're more than welcome to join for free. The group is going to stay open for free for a little while, so be sure to join in before it's a paid membership. And if you have any other questions or any other things that you want me to tap into, let me know that too.
This can range from topics around authenticity, self-confidence, freedom, but also life coaching, how to serve as a coach, how to show up powerfully, but also questions around spirituality. I love that too. I haven't talked about that too much. Consciousness, how do we create reality? What even is this game that we're playing? Those things. If you have any questions around that, let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.